Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video on a day that I don't normally even record Question the Narrative videos. So that's a hint that I'm really excited about what I'm going to share today. And today's topic is simply called You're Not Going to Believe This. And I say that because when I saw it, I could scarcely believe it. What you're looking at here is a photo that I took yesterday when I was in historic downtown Bethlehem. And as you can see, there are very evident mud flood windows in this building. But this is not the main topic of the video. I will be sharing some interesting photos that I took yesterday of possible mud flood buildings. But what I wanted to share with you today is actually far more exciting than this. I received a message from a patron the other day. So thank you very much, Addie, for this information. And I've been dying to share this information since she sent it to me, which was, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday. And I was gone all day Thursday. I was gone all day yesterday. So I am getting this out there today because I did not want to wait any further. This is actually from the Acts and Monuments by John Fox, and it's the Book of Martyrs. And I want to show you what she pointed out to me. Containing the last 300 years from the loosing out of Satan. This book was written in 1583. And I'm going to show this to you again. Containing the last 300 years from the loosing out of Satan. Could this be evidence that we are indeed in the short season? I would think that at the very least, it is evidence that people believed at that time already that Satan had already been released. And we're still, going back and forth about this today. So that brings to mind a few questions that I have, which I will get back to, but let's just take a look a little bit more at what this is about. So these are supposedly the things that happened after the loosing out of Satan. And you can see that this timeline here starts in 1377, and it just starts with Richard II, and then it says articles collected out of Wycliffe's sermons. 1378, the bull of Pope Gregory to the Chancellor and University of Oxford, the epistle of Pope Gregory to Richard, King of England, to persecute John Wycliffe. Here, I'm not going to read through all of them, but articles of John Wycliffe, some condemned as heretical, others as erroneous. And so again, this would all be after the loosing of Satan, so it wouldn't surprise you that there would be persecution against him. Let's see. The protestation of Hereford, Repington, and Ashton. And I'm going to just tell you right now that I don't have any definite conclusions from this yet, but what I certainly am thinking is that it is very, very possible that we are in the short season, especially considering the fact that we now have a complete timeline of events. And I will show you actually that this person has even pinpointed down the year that he believes that Satan was released. So this I'll just show you is a quick outline of the things that are talked about in Fox's Book of Martyrs. And I will go through a little bit of this in a minute, but I wanted to share with you the part that Addie had highlighted for me. And it says, thus then, to begin with the year of our Lord, 1360, wherein I have a little as is aforesaid, transgressed the stint of the first loosing out of Satan. Now, what is meant by the first loosing out of Satan? That I don't know. I have never heard of there being subsequent loosing outs of Satan. I don't know if that's proper English, but I said it anyway. But it does make you think, because 1360, that was almost 700 years ago. And so we often think of this, it's often called the short season, but I don't believe the original had season. I believe it just said like a little while or a short time. So what are we to make of this? If this would be true and Satan had been released in the year 1360, and we are almost at 700 years now. What could that mean? We definitely know that our timeline has been altered. At the very least, the timeline has been altered. So that certainly could come into play with this. And in fact, it does make you think about that added 1,000 years. And that whole thing is just so confusing to think about. My friend Donita from the Prairie Dust channel, and I'll leave a link to her channel in the description because she has fantastic ideas. She had she has the hypothesis that many of these battles that were taught in history class, like the Revolutionary War and the Civil War and the War of 1812 and the French and Indian War, are taught as separate battles at separate time periods. But her hypothesis is, what if these were all things that happened around the same time after the loosing out of Satan? And that would actually condense the amount of time that has passed since the time of the loosing out of Satan. They stretch it out by expanding all of these battles and making it seem like there's hundreds of years or at least decades between them, when in fact it's very possible that they may all have happened around the same time, and we were just taught the wrong years in order to make it look like, much more time has passed than actually has. On top of that, we even need to think about our own concept of time and what it biblically means, because it seems that depending on the situation, it could mean different things. The Bible tells us that with the Lord, a day is as 1,000 years. So if you think of it that way, if it says a short time, it might actually be longer than what we humans are calling a short time. However, in Revelation 1, it says that these things must happen quickly. And if you actually look at the original Greek that was used when that was written, it really does mean a very short time. So not symbolically a very short time, or not a short time as in the eyes of the Lord, but a short time as it is when it comes to us humans here on this earth. So I would actually be really interested in finding someone who can translate from the original Greek, who can actually explain what the true meaning is of Revelation 20 when it says for a little while. Is it talking specifically, is the same language used that was used in Revelation 1 as in it actually is going to be a literal, very short time period from then? Or is it more as in a day is as 1,000 years? Because that really does matter when it comes to figuring out how long this little while actually is going to be. And, a lot of people are probably thinking it's not relevant. But if we are living in that time, to me, it is relevant because, we know now that the Lord is coming soon. And we want to be prepared for this. And one thing that I want to point out, though, is that this doesn't change our mission as Christians. And so many people just get very upset at the idea that we could possibly be in this short season. That Satan has already been loosed. But there is no reason to get upset. Our mission has not changed. It is still our job to spread the gospel, and we still have the coming of Christ to look forward to, and living in an eternity on a new earth with him. So when people get upset thinking that the millennial kingdom has already passed, there's nothing to be upset about, because the new earth is going to be even better than that was. So when you actually look at this, it is very, very detailed. There are so many things listed for these years. And again, it started in 1377, and he proposes that Satan was loosed in 1360. But it goes on and on. It's meticulous records of what has happened since that time. So I want to point out that now we are down here, and it says Contents Book 6, and then it repeats it again. Pertaining to the last 300 years from the loosing out of Satan. It says it again. It's really making a point to say Satan has been loosed. These are the things that have happened since that time. And here it says it again. Acts and Monuments, continuation of Book 5, containing the last 300 years from the loosing out of Satan. So records were kept from 1377 up to at least 1583 when this was published. Now I am going to go back over to this summary here, and we will just quickly read through some of it, possibly all of it. Some of it seems to be written in Old English, so that's, and some Latin is going to be a bit challenging. Okay, it says page 526, Fox's Book of Martyrs, a table containing the time of the persecution, both of the primitive and of the latter church, with the count of years from the first binding up of Satan to his loosing again, after the mind of the apocalypse. The first persecution of the primitive church, beginning at the 30 years of Christ, was prophesied to continue 42 months. That is, I don't know what the AN means. Yeah, not sure what that means. And it's 294 a year. The ceasing is written in a very difficult way to understand, just the formatting of it. The ceasing of the last persecution of the primitive church by the death of Licinius, the last persecutor, began AN 324 from the nativity of Christ, which was from the 30th year of his age. Here it says 294 again. And then here it says 1294. Okay. The binding up of Satan after peace given to the church, counting from the 30 years of Christ, began AN 294 or 324 and lasted 1,000 years. That is, counting from the 30th year of Christ to the year 1294, about which year Pope Boniface VIII was pope and made the 6th book of the Decretals, confirmed the orders of friars, and privileged them with great freedom, as appeared by his constitution. 1294. Unto the which count of years doeth not much disagree, that I found in a certain old chronicle prophesied and written in the latter end of a book, which book was written, as it seemeth, by the monk of Dower, and remained yet in the custody of William Carey, a citizen of London, alleging the prophecy of one Haincardus, a Grey Friar, grounded upon the authority of Joachim the abbot, or is it Ioachim, the abbot, prophesying that Antichrist should be born the year from the nativity of Christ, 1260, which is counting after the Lord's passion, the very same year and time when the orders of friars, both Dominics and Franciscans, began first to be set up by Pope Honorius III and by Pope Gregorius IX, which was the year of our Lord, counting after his passion, 1226. And counting after the nativity of the Lord was the year 1260. This is the Latin I was speaking of. These things thus premise for the loosing out of Satan, according to the prophecy of the apocalypse. Now let us enter, Christ willing, to the declaration of these latter times, which followed after the letting out of Satan into the world, describing the wondrous perturbations and cruel tyranny stirred up by him against Christ's church. Also the valiant resistance of the Church of Christ against him and Antichrist, as in these our books here under following may appear. So it seems, according to this, they are writing as if the Antichrist comes after the loosing out of Satan. Or perhaps we know that history is cyclical. So it is very possible that, yes, there was an Antichrist, the Antichrist, before the millennial kingdom, and there may well be one in the short season. I've said this many times too. It would not surprise me if we are actually in that little while, but we will still see many of the same things that were described to be happening during the tribulation that may have happened before the millennial kingdom, or that would have happened before the millennial kingdom, because there is nothing new under the sun. And so I would fully expect to see many of the same things also happening during the short season. Okay, and here it says, the argument of which book consisteth in two parts. First, to entreat of the raging fire of Satan now loosed, and of Antichrist, against the saints of Christ, fighting and travailing for the maintenance of the truth and reformation of the church. Secondly, to declare the decay and ruin of the said Antichrist, through the power of the word of God, being at length, either in a great part of the world, overthrow, or at least universally in the whole world, detected. Thus then to begin with the year of our Lord 1360, wherein I have a little, as is aforesaid, transgressed the stint of the first loosing out of Satan, we are come now to the time wherein the Lord, after long darkness, beginneth some reformation of his church, by the diligent industries of sundry his faithful and learned servants. And then it just continues and lists the names. So this is something that kind of floors me, especially if you just think of when it was written and the idea that, yeah, they're saying the same thing then that many people are saying now. And it really does make you think. So I would love to know what anyone has to think about this. Just leave a comment and let me know. Now I'm going to share with you some really interesting photos that I took yesterday while I was in, I mentioned earlier, historic downtown Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And right away, we get out of the parking deck and walk a little bit, and bam, I'm faced with this building here. I mean, come on. You cannot get much more mud flooded than this. And as you can see, we've got these steps going up to this door. So I'm fairly certain that there was originally a door down here next to these windows, and that was the original first floor, because it's a pretty steep hill and you still see little bits of these windows peeking out. And yeah, this does scream mud flood, and I'm sorry, you cannot tell me that they built it like this with the windows on purpose. And that's just from the other side of the street, and you get an idea of how tall the building is. So it's 4 stories high, but actually it's 5 stories high, because this would have been the ground level at some point, I believe, before there was something that caused it to get buried. I was still in the car at this time. I was in the passenger seat, and I noticed it looks so tiny, this little door. And so I had to take a picture of it. Now, I don't know much about this building. Again, this is in the historic downtown district. So much of it is still the old buildings, but it has been renovated. So you can't really tell what's old. This looks rather like a new facade on it. But I just find it funny that we have what looks like a very tiny door. And I actually believe that this may have once been a window, not actually a door. But yeah, I said it looked like a little dwarf might have lived in this house. It is a normal sized door. It just gives the illusion of being this little tiny door there. So this is on the campus of Moravian University. And I think this one said that it's a private residence. And when it says private residence, I'm assuming it means for students, but I'm not sure. But just look at this building. I mean, yeah, the windows are not half buried, but look at the proportion of the size of the roof compared to the size of the rest of the house. The roof looks like it's almost as large as the rest of the building, and that doesn't make sense. This very, very much looks like a building that was buried and was once taller, and much of it is still likely underground. I would love to know how many levels there are underneath this building, but you can tell just by looking at it. This is not how it was built. There's definitely at least one more level underneath here that was at one point buried, because that would just be very disproportionate, in my humble opinion. And this is just, I don't remember. I think this was just a house, but I just found it odd how you have to walk down these steps to get into the front door when the ground level is right here. These are right at the street level, but this was a building where you would again have to walk up these steps, and then the door was right up here somewhere. So leaving you to believe that this probably was once the first floor. I think that's the other side of it. So yeah, so here we have this. We have this window here, but you have to walk up these steps. That's the front door now. And I'm thinking that it's very possible that the door used to be more down here and it was just renovated to put a door in at this level because the rest of it was too low or buried. So I just took, this is just another view of this building where you can see, you know, the windows that are kind of sunken into the ground here. And I'm willing to bet that there are probably windows over here behind these hedges. I wasn't on that side of the street, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if there were windows down here too. And yeah, like I said, this is Moravian University, and it says this building, oh, founded. There you go. It was founded in 1742. So could we say that it was found and dug out? Very possible. This is also part of the Moravian University campus. I believe this is the church. Just took a picture of this because it's yeah, that's the church. This is the weather vane. We've got a copper dome on top of it. Very pretty and very antiquitech looking. Now this one, I took this picture because again, we have these windows. Clearly, they are formed, at least at the top, just as the other windows were. So to me, these were typical windows and they were just buried. And now this is all that we see, all that's left. You know, and this is just obviously they put in new framing and everything, but this was once like this. I have no doubt about that. This is the building where there's something called the puts that they put on every year, and it's basically this huge nativity scene, and they just tell this story. Well, they read from Luke 2 and they tell the nativity story, and then it goes on even a little bit beyond that into the life of Christ. And so we actually went in to watch that. But here I see on the side of the building, here's, yeah, more buried windows. And so yeah, these buildings they're very, very pretty. And I believe I shared this one maybe last year. I don't know. I might have just been on Instagram that I shared it, but you can kind of see in this picture. But we have behind the hedges, yes, there are windows. You can see kind of right here. And we often make the hypothesis that underneath this, when you have steps going up to a door, that there was once a door, you know, behind where the steps are. Well, this actually proves that that hypothesis is true in a lot of cases because right here you can actually see there is a door there. So yes, that's something that it does happen. They will build steps up to one level, and if another level is half buried, they will often cover the other door with the steps, but this one they actually left it open so you can still go in this door too. So I encourage you to take a look around your own town. Now, I don't specifically live in Bethlehem. Some of my children do, though. It's a beautiful area. The historic section is absolutely amazing, and there's so much evidence that there was some sort of mud flood. And you can especially see it in these more hilly regions. And I think it's possible that these areas were just buried more and would have taken much more effort to level out to build foundations of houses, or they just, you know, they didn't feel like digging out everything. So they kind of left it the way that it is and left all these hills. I don't know. But I will also say this reminds me right here, the sidewalks are brick. And last summer in the town that I live in, they repaved Main Street. And as I was crossing the street, they kind of had the old concrete that was in the street pulled away and you could see underneath it. Our streets in our town used to be brick. They used to look just like this. Our streets, not even the sidewalks, our streets looked like this. And they paved them over, and I wish I would have taken pictures. But you know, it really does make you think how they were able to do such beautiful, intricate things at that time. with supposedly having so little? So that does, yeah, that does leave the question. What were these things built in the 17 and 1800s, or were they found, dug out, and repurposed? That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.